idea that I just wanted to do more than one thing a year. 5 years later, I realized I just have to stop to make sure that can happen.
Because when I was trying and when I was learning, it was Timothy Hutton, it was Richard Gere, it was Mel Gibson, it was Nicolas Cage, it was Sean Penn, it was all of them, and I'm thinking, I'm not getting past these guys.
To the world, Kevin Costner was John Dutton, the ruthless patriarch who would burn his enemies to protect his home. But behind the scenes, Costner wasn't protecting his empire, he was torching it. In 2023, he walked away from Yellowstone, the biggest show on TV, to chase a risky passion project. But this gamble cost him everything. While he bet his fortune, his wife of 18 years filed for divorce, claiming his obsession left their family behind. This wasn't a midlife crisis, it was a scorched earth gamble. The John Dutton stubbornness wasn't acting. It was the real Kevin Costner, a man driven by an ego so powerful, it convinced him he could burn down his own life and survive the fire. The maverick who bet on himself. Long before he was a billionaire rancher on TV or an Oscar-winning director, Kevin Costner was a marketing executive in a suit, walking away from a safe life because of a single conversation on an airplane. Kevin Costner wasn't a Hollywood Nepo baby. He was born in Linwood, California in 1955, the son of a ditch digger and a welfare worker. He grew up in a blue-collar world where you did what you were told, got a steady job, and provided for your family, and for a while, he did exactly that. He went to college, married his sweetheart, Cindy Silva, and took a sensible marketing job in Orange County. He was on the path to a quiet, anonymous life. But the ticking time bomb of his ambition was already there. In the late 70s, on a flight back from his honeymoon in Puerto Vallarta, Costner found himself sitting near the legendary actor Richard Burton. Costner, nervous and unsure, walked up to the icon and asked him a simple question. Do you have to tolerate turmoil to be an actor? Burton looked at him and delivered a line that would change history. You have green eyes. I have green eyes. I think you'll be fine. He told Costner to be patient. That brief exchange was the spark. Costner quit his marketing job after just 30 days. He moved his wife to Hollywood and worked as a truck driver, a tour guide, and a fisherman to make ends meet, determined to bet on himself. This belief that he was right, even when the world said he was crazy, became his superpower. It defined his ascent. In the late 80s, when Hollywood declared the Western genre dead and buried, Costner decided to direct and star in a 3-hour epic called Dances with Wolves. Everyone told him it was career suicide. They called it Kevin's Gate, predicting a massive flop. Costner ignored them. He put $3 million of his own money into the film. The result? It won 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director, and made him a global icon. He cemented this status with a baseball trilogy, Bull Durham and Field of Dreams, that made him the face of American nostalgia. He wasn't just a star, he was America's dad. But this victory planted a dangerous seed. It reinforced the idea that Kevin Costner didn't need to listen to studios or directors or partners. He only needed to listen to himself. This pattern of my way or the highway fueled his greatest hits, but it also created a looming shadow over his career. As his fame grew, so did his need for total control. This peaked with the disaster of Waterworld. It was a production nightmare that saw the budget balloon to a record-breaking $175 million. The set literally sank into the ocean. Costner reportedly nearly died when he was lashed to a mast during a storm and left there for 30 minutes while the crew scrambled. He famously clashed with director Kevin Reynolds, eventually locking him out of the editing room to take control himself. He was developing a reputation. A genius, yes, but a difficult, stubborn genius who believed he knew better than anyone else in the room. This psychological need for control, this belief that he was the only one who truly understood the story, would serve him well for decades. It allowed him to revive his career multiple times when critics wrote him off. But it was this exact trait, this refusal to compromise his vision for anyone, that would eventually lead him into the biggest conflict of his life, threatening to tear apart the very empire he had finally found in the mountains of Montana. The hostage situation. At the absolute apex of his television career, earning a reported $1.3 million per episode as the face of Yellowstone. Costner entered a toxic power struggle that would expose the limits of his control. By 2022, Yellowstone wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural phenomenon. It was the #1 show on television, a red state Game of Thrones that had revitalized the Western genre yet again. And sitting on the throne was Kevin Costner. He had won a Golden Globe for his portrayal of John Dutton. He was the indispensable man. The show didn't work without him, and he knew it. But behind the scenes, a war was raging. This is the secret revealed. Costner wasn't satisfied just being an actor in someone else's playground. The Maverick was restless. He wanted to direct again. He had a passion project that had been eating at him for 35 years. A massive 4-part movie saga called Horizon, an American saga. A script he had first commissioned back in 1988. To make his dream reality, he needed time. He needed to get away from the grueling schedule of a network TV show. And this is where the ego war began. Costner reportedly demanded a significantly reduced shooting schedule for the second half of Yellowstone Season 5. Rumors swirled that he only wanted to spend a single week filming his scenes. This demand collided head-on with the show's creator, Taylor Sheridan. Sheridan is a cowboy auteur with an ego to match Costner's. He writes every word, directs the vision, and runs his set like a ranch. He wasn't about to let an actor, even the Kevin Costner, dictate the production schedule. The core reveal here is the brutality of the negotiation. It wasn't just about dates on a calendar, it was a hostage situation. Costner allegedly felt he had contractually earned the right to focus on his own projects. Sheridan, the studio, and the fans felt he was holding the show hostage. The negotiations turned toxic. Lawyers got involved. Costner reportedly demanded veto power over scripts, something Sheridan famously never gives. He also reportedly had a moral death clause in his contract, a rare provision that gave him veto power over how John Dutton could be killed off. He refused to let the character die in a shameful or embarrassing way. This clause became a weapon in the negotiations, frustrating Sheridan, who felt handcuffed by his own star. The partnership that had conquered television was rotting from the inside out. The cast and crew were left in limbo, waiting to see if their star would return. The fans were left wondering if their favorite show would even have an ending. Costner had made a choice. His movie mattered more than the show that had given him his second act. And while he was fighting this professional war, his personal life detonated. On May 1st, 2023, while Costner was dealing with the Yellowstone fallout, his wife of 18 years, Christine Baumgartner, filed for divorce. This wasn't a quiet, respectful Hollywood split. It became an immediate, public spectacle. And the secret that shocked the public was the battle over their home. Costner owned a massive, $145 million beachfront compound in Santa Barbara. They had a prenuptial agreement that stated if they divorced, Christine had 30 days to vacate the property. But she didn't leave. For weeks, the press reported a stunning standoff. The man playing the toughest patriarch on TV was effectively homeless in his own house. Christine allegedly refused to move out, citing the need for stability for their 3 teenage children and claiming the child support offer wasn't enough to maintain their lifestyle. Costner was furious. In court documents, he claimed he had nowhere to live. He said he was being forced to stay at his film location because his ex-wife wouldn't leave his home. The man who prided himself on control had completely lost it. His private life was being dissected in the tabloids, and the details were petty. Lawyers argued over who owned the pots and pans. Christine demanded $248,000 a month, while Costner's team fired back, accusing her of spending over $100,000 on plastic surgery and personal trainers. It was ugly, it was messy, and it was happening at the exact moment his professional reputation was under fire. The man who had bet on himself time and time again was now facing a scenario where he might lose everything at once. He was losing his wife, he was losing his home, and he was losing the role that had made him a king. It's shocking to see how a life so public could hide a secret so devastating. Here on Retro Fame, we're dedicated to uncovering the true, often hidden stories of the figures you thought you knew. If you believe these stories need to be told, Hit that subscribe button so you never miss another deep dive. Now, for Kevin Costner, this reveal was just the beginning. The fallout was even more dramatic. The man who chose a movie over a marriage. The public turned on him. The fan base that had worshipped John Dutton now saw Kevin Costner as the villain who killed their favorite show. As the Yellowstone drama leaked to the press, the narrative shifted. Costner wasn't seen as a victim. He was painted as a greedy, difficult diva who abandoned his TV family to chase a vanity project. Reports surfaced painting him as arrogant and unavailable. The studio, Paramount, eventually made the shocking announcement. Yellowstone would end after season 5. This was a humiliating public firing. The network decided it was better to kill their golden goose than to keep dealing with the star's demands. Costner, the man who built the show's audience, was essentially shown the door. He threatened to sue over his contract, hinting at a legal bloodbath that would expose even more secrets, but the damage was done. John Dutton was done. But the fallout wasn't just professional, it was a financial hemorrhage. The divorce battle with Christine dragged on through the summer of 2023. Every detail was ammunition. We learned about the $12 million a year living expenses, the private school tuitions, the country club memberships. Costner had to testify in his court, detailing his cash flow and his assets. Eventually, they settled. The terms were sealed, but reports suggest Christine moved out and received a payout significantly higher than the prenup stated, but far lower than her initial demands. Costner got his house back, but the emotional toll of dragging his family through a public court battle was visible. He looked tired. The unshakable patriarch had been shaken. And yet, in the middle of this wreckage, Costner did the one thing he has always done. He doubled down. This is the final shocking detail. The gamble wasn't just leaving Yellowstone, it was what he did to replace it. To fund his dream project, Horizon, an American saga, Costner didn't just use studio money. He put his own skin in the game. He revealed in court that he had mortgaged his own 10-acre waterfront property in Santa Barbara to raise the funds. He confirmed he invested $38 million of his own cash into the first 2 movies alone, nearly double what was initially reported. He managed to raise another $60 million from investors, but the core risk was his. He had walked away from a guaranteed $1.3 million a week paycheck on Yellowstone to spend his own fortune on a Western movie series that studios didn't even want to make. He risked his liquidity, his real estate, and his legacy on a 4-part movie series in an era where movies are struggling. But the contrast is what makes this tragic. At the same time his wife was in court arguing for financial stability for their children, Costner was leveraging their future inheritance to fund a movie. He essentially chose his art over his family's security. He chose the dream over the reality. The lonely end of this chapter is striking. He stood on the red carpet at the Cannes Film Festival in 2024 to premiere Horizon. He received a 10-minute standing ovation that moved him to tears, a moment of vindication amidst the chaos. But he stood there alone. His wife was gone. His Yellowstone castmates were gone. He had burned down his safe harbor to sail into the storm of this movie. If Horizon succeeds, he is a genius who bet on himself and won, just like with Dances with Wolves. If it fails, he is a man who destroyed his marriage and his steady job for a vanity project that cost him a fortune. The verdict is still out, but the reality is clear. Kevin Costner is playing a high-stakes game of poker with his own life, and he has pushed every single chip into the center of the table. The cowboy's last stand. In the end, Kevin Costner's story is a modern Greek tragedy of a man who refused to compromise, even when it cost him everything. We've seen his rise as a stubborn maverick who built an empire by ignoring the rules. We've uncovered the hidden ego battle that destroyed Yellowstone, and the personal devastation of a messy public divorce that left him fighting for his own home. His legacy is now reframed. He proved that he is the last of a dying breed, a star who believes in his own vision above all else. Whether Horizon becomes a masterpiece or a cautionary tale, he proved he was willing to burn down his safety net to chase it. But what do you think? Was Kevin Costner a courageous artist betting on himself, or was he selfish for destroying the show millions of people loved? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. We have a new video just like this one coming next week. If you love digging deeper than the headlines, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss another video. If you love this story, we've got more celebrity deep dives queued up for you. Just click the videos on your screen to continue. Thanks for watching.